Hello guys, welcome to the next session of developing e-commerce application from scratch using Angular and Spring Boot. In the last session we seen how we can create one API to fetch all the product details which are present into a database. Now in this session we are going to see how we can use that API and how we can show all the product details to the admin in a table format. So first of all, let me just quickly show you what we did in the last session. So in the last session we just created one API, that is get all products, and whenever we use get mapping and whenever we use a send, so it will basically return all the products which are present into a database. So as of now I have just added only one product. That's the reason it is giving me only one product, but if we have multiple then it will return multiple as well. Now we are going to utilize these API and we are going to show all the product details in a UI. So what we are going to do is we are just going to add one more option over here for the admin, which is a show all product details, and whenever admin will click on that button, then we will redirect him or her to the new page where we will show all the product details in a table format. Now again, our product details contains images as well, so we are not going to show all the images in a table itself. We are just going to show the text in the table, because showing the images in the table may not be feasible, uh, because for one product there might be multiple images, so showing them in a table will not be it will not look that good. So that's the reason I have decided I will just show only the text in the table itself. Now without wasting much more time, let me just go to the Visual Studio Code, and over here we have to add we have to create one component. So let me just use my terminal again so that I can create one component. So let me just stop the current execution of the application. Let me just open the new terminal and let me just use npm run and nggc. So let me just give the name as show product details, like this. So it will just create a new component for me having the name as show product details component. So if you see on the left hand side, new folder is created which is having the name show product details. Now the next thing that we have to do is we have to just come to the header component. Inside a header we have to just go to the header.component.html file, and inside this we have to add a new option. So over here if you see, at the end we have added two different buttons. One is for the home, second one is for the add a new product. So these are the two buttons which are visible on this navigation bar. So similarly we have to add a third button as well. So let me just add a third button. So let me just copy this particular button which we have added to add new product, and let me just paste it after this, and let me just change the text which is show product details, like this. And then we have to configure a path as well, but let me just show you one condition that we have previously used. So if you see, we have used one ngIf which says that isadmin. So isadmin is nothing but a function that we have created inside a header.component.ts file. So if you see, this is the isadmin function we have created. So this function returns true if admin is logged in, otherwise it returns a false. So which basically means that if this function is going to return a true, that means currently admin is logged in, and if currently admin is logged in, then and only then we are going to show this button to the admin, otherwise we will hide the button. So this is the logic behind it. Now the next thing that we have to do is we have to just go to the routing module. So let me just go to the app routing module ts file, and then we have to configure a path as well. So let me just configure a path for my newly created component. So let me just use path, and let me just give the path as show product details and comma component will be my show product details component, like this. And now let me just copy this particular path, and let me just come back to the header.component.html file, and instead of these add a new product, let me just paste my new path. And make sure slash is really very important, because if you avoid the slash it will give the error. Now let me just save the changes and let me start my application. Let's see what happens on the UI, whether we are able to redirect to the newly created component or not. Because now what I'm expecting is, I'm expecting one new option to be added in a navigation bar, and whenever we will click on it, we will just go to the new component. So let me just refresh this application, and yes, the new option is added. Let me just click on it, and yes, we are able to redirect to the show product details component. Now what we have to do is, we have to just create one table over here, and whatever information we will get from the backend, we have to show these information into a table. Now let me just work on that as well. And to show the table, what I'm just going to do is, I'm just going to use again Angular material UI library. So if you just go to the material.angular.io, and if you just go to the components, on the left hand side you will see one option that is called as a table. So this is the table, like basic table I'm just going to use to show all the product details. And if you want to see the code, then you can just click on the view code button, and you will be able to see all the HTML, TypeScript, and as well as CSS code for it. Now what I'm just going to do is, I'm just going to first of all go to the option that is API, because mat table I'm going to use for the very first time in my project. And if you are going to use any API, if you are going to use any library in your project for very first time, then we have to configure its API, or maybe we can say that we have to import its module as well. So that's the reason we have to import it. So let me just copy this very first line, which is import mat table module from @angular/material/table. Let me just copy this line, and let me just come back to my VS Code, and over here let me just go to the my app.module.ts file. Inside the app.module.ts file, let me just add this import line at the top, and similarly we have to import this mat table module in our imports array. So let me just come bit below, and inside my imports array let me just add this as well. So let me just add mat table module, and now let me just save this code. Now we have imported our mat table module successfully. The next thing that we have to do is, we have to we have to create our service function so that we can get data from the backend. So let's do that thing next. Let me come back to the VS Code, and over here let me just go to the services. So let me just go to the services folder. I am interested in the product service file. So let me just go to the product.service.ts, and let me just create one more function over here. So let me just use public, and let me just use let's suppose get all products. This function is going to take no any parameter. Then we have to just do is return this dot http client dot get, and what it is going to return us, it is going to return us a product array. So let me just give it as well, and then we have to give our endpoint as well. So let me just give the endpoint inside these two lines. So let me just go to the Postman. Let me just copy this API, and let me just come back, and let me just paste it over here. So the API is http://localhost:9090/get all products. Now our service function is ready, and we can just close this product service file. Then what I have to do is, I have to just come to the show product detail component. Inside the show product detail component, first thing that we have to do is, we have to inject our product service. So let me just use private product service, and then product service, like this. And then let me just create one more function over here, that is public get all products, like this. And then what it is going to do is, this function is going to call my service function. So let me just use this dot product service dot get all products, and then it is going to take no any parameter, so we can directly subscribe to it like this. And then inside a subscribed we have to give two callback functions. First will be a for a response and second will be a for a error. So let me just use response RESP. It is going to return us the response of product, and that product is nothing but a array. So let me just give it as a product array, and then let me just give this arrow. And initially what we can just do is we can just use console.log, and then we can just print our response like this. And if something goes wrong, or if at all we get any error, then we have to just print this error on the console as well. So let me just add one more callback for the error, which is of type HTTP error response. Again, it is a arrow function. So let me just give the arrow, and let me just make it as a console.log, and let me just give it as a error. So let me just print my error like this. Now our function is ready. We have to just call this function from our ng on init. So let me just call it from my ng on init like this. And now let me just save these changes. On the UI currently, like on the terminal, if you see, currently I'm getting some errors. So first of all, what we have to do is currently we have to stop the execution, or maybe you can kill the current terminal. Let me just open a new terminal, and let me just use npm run start like this, and let me just wait till my application compiles successfully. And this time I'm expecting that I should not get any errors on the console, and it should run as it is. So yeah, so over here if you see, whenever we import any new module into our project, then the very first thing that we have to do is we have to stop the current execution of the application. We have to kill the current terminal, and then we have to restart the application. So this is the thing that we can do. Now let me just go back to the Google Chrome, and let me just go back to my application, and over here let me just open the console, and now let me just refresh the application. So let's see what happens. So now I'm expecting that whenever I will refresh the application, it should show me some product details on a console, because we are now calling our get all product function from the ng on init itself. So let me just refresh the application, and if you see on the console we got one array, and that array is nothing but a it basically contains one product, and as of now I have only one product in my database. That's the reason it is returning me only one product. But yes, we are able to fetch all the information successfully. Now whatever information we have just fetched, we have to show this information in a table format, so that it will be a more beautiful in terms of look and feel. So now let's do work on that. So let me just go back to the VS Code, and let me just go back to the show product detail component.html file. Inside these, let me just add the table. So now adding the table is really very easy, because Angular material provides all the code we have pretty ready-made code. We have to just copy, and we have to just paste it, and we have to modify it according to our needs. So let's see how we can do that. So let me just go back to the Google Chrome. Let me just go back to the Angular material site. I'm just going to use this basic mat table. So let me just click on this view code button, and now we are able to see the code of this basic mat table. So we can just copy these things, and there are few things that we have to change, so we are going to change it as well. So let me just copy this entire example, and this example is really very small, and I will just explain it as well. I was actually looking into writing the code by myself, but there are some classes, and there are some like the classes that Angular material uses, and I just don't wanted to make it pretty hard to everyone, because everyone is new and some of the people might get confused. So that's the reason I was I'm just copying the code, but I will just explain every single thing. So let me just copy this code, and let me come back to the VS Code and let me paste it over here like this. And now there are few things that we have to change. So first of all, let me just remove this commented line. I don't want this commented line. And now if you see, we have very first tag is of the table tag, which is normal HTML kind of tag. And then we have a data source as well. So data source is nothing but the data that we are going to show in our table. Then for every single column we have the definition. So for every single column we have to use ng container, and then we have to give all the column names and all the we have to give its values as well. So for every single column we have these separate ng container. Lastly, we have two different things. We have two tr, that is table row tags. So inside the first table row we have to give an array which contains our column names, and second table row is also like we have to give the array which contains our column names. So we are going to do every single thing like step by step. So let's first of all focus on how we can show these column names. So let me just come back to the Google Chrome and let me just come back to the TS file. And if you see, they have already created one array which contains all the column names. So let me just copy these column names and let me just come back to the VS Code and let me just go to the TS file and let me just paste these column names at the top. And now let me just save this code. And again, what we have to do is we have to apply a data source as well. So let me just apply a data source. So how we are going to do is I'm just going to create one variable, let's say product details, which will be of type product, and again it will be an array, and initially it will be an empty array. Then what I'm just going to do is inside my get all products, inside my subscribe, whenever we will get the response, that response we are going to attach to our product details. So this dot product details is equals to RESP like this. And now let me just save this code. Now let me just copy this array name which is product details, and let me just come back to the HTML and let me just give this array name as my data source. Now let me just paste it like this, and now let me just save it. Now the next thing that we have to do is we have to change the columns. So let's first of all see what are the column names that we are going to show. So for this, let me just come back to the Postman, and if you see, we have the product ID, we have product name, description, its actual price, and its discounted price. So in total we have 1 2 3 4 5 columns to show. So let me just first of all use this product ID. So let me just copy this key. So make sure you are just copying the correct key. So product ID should be as it is, like there should not be any spelling mistakes. So let me just copy this product ID and let me just come back. And one more thing, like if you don't want to use a Postman, what you can just do is you can just go to the Google Chrome, and previously we used this array, right? So we have used console.log for this array. So you can use these particular keys as well, like product ID, product discounted price. So you can use that as well. So there should not be any confusion for it. Now let me just come back to the Visual Studio Code, and over here let me just give the very first column name as a product ID. So let me just use it as a product, or maybe we can just give it as a ID only, and it should be like element dot product ID like this. Now second column that we have to do is we have to give a product name. So let me just copy the key that is product name, and let me just give it as a element dot product name, and let me just make it as a capital P, and let me just give some space in between. The third thing that we have to add is product description. Let me just copy it and let me just give it as a product description, element dot product description, and let me just give product space description. Similarly, let me just give it for a discounted price. Let me just copy it and discounted price. like this. And now we have to add one more column, which is a actual price. So let me just copy this and let me just paste it, and let me just come back to the postman. Let me just copy this key, which is product actual price, and let me just paste it at the last. So let me just use product actual price, like this. And one more thing that we have to do is we have to give the same column names inside our displayed columns array as well. So let me just copy these column names one by one. Let me just copy these ID. Let me just come back to the TS inside our displayed column. Let me just give the very first key as ID. Then for the second, let me just copy product name, and let me just do the same thing for the third, product description. Let me just copy it and let me just paste it. For the fifth, product discounted price, let me just copy it, let me just paste it. And we have to add one more because we have the last column, which is of a product's actual price. So let me just copy product's actual price and let me just paste it. And now let me just save it. Now I think we are done from the aspect of creating the table. We have done every single thing. So let me just restart my application. Let's see what happens on the UI and what we did now. Let me just come back to the Google Chrome, and now we are getting some error on a console. So let me just refresh the application. Let's see what happens. So still I'm getting the errors. So it is giving me the error as duplicate column definition name provided symbol. So yes, let me just come back to the Visual Studio Code, and let me just first of all see what I'm doing wrong over here. So if you just go and if you just see like symbol, yes, so over here we have to give a column names as well. So let me just give the unique column names. So first of all, let me just copy this product ID, and column definition is equals to a product ID, or maybe we don't have to use this product ID. I think we have to use these particular names. So let me just copy this ID and let me paste it. Let me just copy this product name and let me just paste it for this column definition. Then let me just copy this product description. Then let me just copy this product discounted price, and lastly let me just copy this product actual price and let me just give it as a name of my column definition. And now let me just save this code. Now let me just restart my application. Let's see what happens on the console, whether I'm able to get all the values in my table, or whether do we require any different thing to do. So let me just wait till my application is compiling, and this time I think we should not get any error. Let me just come back to the Google Chrome, and yes, now all the tables and all the values are looking we are able to fetch all the values and show it to the table. Now the next thing that we have to do is we have to make this table more beautiful, because if you see, as of now our table is not looking like its look and feel is not good. So we have to give some styles as well. So again, I'm just not going to add any large number of styles. I'm just going to keep it pretty simple. Then let me just come back to the VS Code, and first of all let me just do one thing. Let me just add this entire table in a card. So let me just, or instead of a card, let me just add it inside a container. So let me just create one division having the class as a container, and let me just close this division after my table ends. So let me just close this division after my table ends, and now let me just save it, and let's see what happens right now on the Google Chrome. So if you see, like we got some space from the left hand side, but still we are not be able to get any space from the top. So let me just add one more class which is a empty5, and now let me save it, and let me just, yes, now we are able to see some space on the top as well. Now the next thing that we have to do, we have to just apply a width as well. So let me just use the CSS. Now let me just go to the show product detail component .cs file, and inside this let me just use .table, and then let me just make it as a width is equals to 100% like this. And now let me just save this code and let's see what happens. So again, still I'm not be able to get the expected output, so I think we don't have to give this dot. Let me just save it again and let me just see whether my application is compiled. So yes, it is compiled, and now yes, we are able to give some width to our table as well. So yeah, now this table is looking pretty good and everything is looking perfectly fine. Next thing that we can do is we can just go to the add product, and then let me just try to add one new product, that is, let's suppose iPhone 11. Description is Apple's iPhone. Product's price will be, let's suppose, 1 lakh rupees. Discounted price is 90,000, and let me just add some images as well. So let me just add only one image and let me just click on the add product button. And as of now, yes, so as of now we were not applied security for these show product details, because it is just we are just implementing it, so we haven't applied the security. But for the add new product there was a security, and that's the reason it is just asking me to log in again. So let me just log in with the admin like this, and now let me just come back to the add new product, and let me just add a new product like iPhone 11. Then let me just give it product description as iPhone 11. Product price will be 1 lakh and it will be a 90,000. Let me just add one image and let me just add the product. And now let me just go to the show product details, as yes, we are able to see the iPhone 11 in the show product details table as well. So yeah, this is how we can add all the product details, and this is how we can get all the product details and show it onto a table. In the next session, what we are going to do is we are going to show the two different buttons on in front of every single record. First button will be for edit, second button will be for a delete. So we are going to that as well. So I hope you got the idea, like how we can show the product details into a table, and how we can use Angular material table as well. So I tried my best to explain every single thing, but if you still have any questions, let me know into a comment section, and I will try my best to help you out in that case. And I hope you enjoyed this session, and I'll see you in the next session.